let's talk about one of the most challenging jobs on the planet. Seriously, imagine this. You start a new job where the stakes are literally national security. The rulebook is this dense alphabet soup of acronyms, and on your very first day, you're already playing catch-up. Well, welcome to the life of a Federal Chief Information Security Officer, or CISO. It is an incredibly tough gig, and today, we're going to break down their playbook for how they survive and even succeed. And this quote right here, it says it all. Can you imagine it's day one, you walk in and you're just hit with this wall of letters, FSIMA, NIST, DHS. As one expert put it, it is absolutely overwhelming on top of everything else. That's the chaotic reality these leaders step into. So what exactly is a CISO? Well, they're the top dog, the senior executive who's on the hook for protecting an organization's most valuable information and data. And in the federal world, a massive chunk of their job is spelled out by law, specifically something called FISMA. So you see, this is way more than just a tech job. It's a high-stakes role that's all about strategy and compliance. So here's how we're going to tackle this today. We'll start with that chaotic first day, then we'll decode the official playbook they use to make sense of it all. After that, we'll dive into the modern strategy called Zero Trust, take a look at what's on the horizon for 2025, and then land on what it's all really about, building a security culture. All right, so let's put ourselves back in that office on day one. It's not just about learning a few new acronyms. It's about truly getting your head around the massive scale of the challenge you've just inherited. So how do you even begin to deal with that kind of chaos? Well, that brings us to the playbook. You know, believe it or not, there are rules to this game. And figuring out that official guide is the very first step to bringing some order to all that madness. And the bedrock, the absolute foundation of that playbook is FISMA. Now, let's be clear, this isn't a suggestion or a helpful guideline. It is the law. It's a direct mandate from Congress saying every single federal agency must have a security program. It really sets the stage for everything a CISO has to do. Now, a CISO isn't doing this alone. They're constantly juggling three major players. First, you've got the OMB, the Office of Management and Budget. Think of them as the ones setting the big government-wide policies. Then you have DHS, the Department of Homeland Security. They're kind of the boots on the ground, making sure those policies actually get implemented. And finally, you have NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology. These are the brains of the operation, the ones creating all the technical standards and frameworks. A CISO's success really depends on keeping all three of these groups happy. Okay, so that's the rulebook, but let's be real. Just following the rules isn't going to cut it against modern threats. So now we've got to get into the actual game plan, the Zero Trust strategy. So, what on earth is Zero Trust? Well, forget the old way of thinking about security. You know, like a castle with a big moat. Once you were inside the walls, you were trusted. Zero Trust completely throws that idea out the window. It works on the assumption that a threat could come from anywhere, inside or outside, so it constantly checks everything. Every user, every device, every connection, every single time. The motto is simple, but powerful. Never trust, always verify. Okay, never trust, always verify sounds great, but how do you actually do it? Well, that's where CISA, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, comes in. They've built a model based on 5 core pillars. It's about who you are, that's identity, what you're using, that's devices, how you're connecting, that's networks, what you're trying to get to, applications, and, of course, the crown jewels, the data itself. A CISO has to build their defenses across all 5 of these areas. So, with the rules and the strategy in hand, what's actually keeping these CISOs up at night? Let's talk about the big priorities for 2025 and the hurdles they see coming. Get ready for this number because it is staggering. A recent survey showed that only 2%, just 2, of executives have actually put key cyber resilience plans into action. That shows this massive gap between knowing what you should do and what's actually getting done. It's exactly why building resilience, the ability to bounce back after you get hit, is such a huge priority. And a big reason for that gap? The cloud. 42% of leaders straight up admit that cloud threats are the thing they are least prepared to handle. Everybody rushed to the cloud, which is great, but securing it is a whole different ballgame, and it's one that's clearly causing a lot of sleepless nights. And this might be the most critical piece of the whole puzzle. It comes down to money, right? Well, only about 1 in 5 companies actually align their cybersecurity budget with their biggest risks. Just think about that. It means in most places, the money isn't going where it's needed most. And you better believe a huge part of a CISO's job is fighting to fix that disconnect. Which brings us right to this key priority. The role of the CISO has totally changed. It's not just about firewalls anymore. It's about being a business leader. They have to be able to translate technical risk into business impact. To say, hey, if we don't fund this, here's exactly how it could hurt our mission. That's how you get the board and the other executives to really listen. But here's the thing. You could have the perfect strategy. You could have an unlimited budget, and it still wouldn't be enough. And that brings us to our final and maybe most important point. The ultimate goal is culture. This is about people. This quote just gets right to the heart of it. A CISO can't be everywhere at once. The real, true challenge is making security part of everyone's job. It's about changing the mindset of the entire organization so every single person, from the intern to the CEO, becomes a champion for it. And that right there is the journey of the modern CISO, from chaos to culture. So we'll just leave you with this question, something to think about for your own organization. Is security just a checklist of things you have to do? Or is it a culture, something that's really part of your DNA? Because at the end of the day, that difference, well, that's everything.